Hello friends, good morning once again and welcome to the series of videos in which we are discussing about the third chapter of your first book, that is Kinship, Caste and Class. In our last video we have discussed about the Gotras of women and caste and right occupation, and we have also discussed about the non-Kshatriya kings. So to continue with the class in this lockdown period, today I'm going to discuss with you the next topic of the series, that is Jatis and social mobility, and I will also discuss about next topic in the series, beyond the four Varnas integration. So in this video we'll be discussing about two different topics. Children, this from this topic we can expect 3 marks question, and we can also expect some 1 marks question. Okay, fine. And at the same time, it's not that we cannot expect 8 marks question. Sometimes, as an additional question you can get a 4 marks question. 4 plus 4, clubbed together questions can be formed from this part. Okay, so that is why we have to prepare it for all sort of all type of questions, like 3 marks and 8 marks also, and even the 1 mark question too. Now in a last topic, when we were discussing about the caste and right occupation, we have discussed about the Varna system. And in Varna system I told you about the division of the society into 4 different Varna: Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishyas and Sudras. And subsequently I also told you about the you know I mean division of the work, or assignment of the different type of occupations based on the Varna system. There I told you about those Varna systems were hereditarily practiced. Okay, say there was strict restrictions to the migration from one Varna to the another Varna. A person cannot change his caste because they believe that the Varna system was by birth. Okay, you have inherited your Varna from your father, so you cannot change, and accordingly you cannot change the occupations also. Whatever the occupations is assigned to you as per the Varna norms, okay, about which I have already discussed in my last video, you cannot change those occupations. Okay, you cannot become Brahmins, or you cannot take up the work of Brahmins if you are not a Brahmin, born Brahmin. Okay, if you are Kshatriyas, or if you are Vaishyas, or if you are Sudras, you cannot become another, you cannot go to the another Varna by changing your occupations. Now here, apart from the Varna based, Varna based division or classifications of the people in the society into 4 groups, you know because India is a vast country and there were a lot of social complexities in the country, it is evident that apart from these 4 Varna people, or people from these 4 Varna, there were large number of other people, who are simply normally not fit into this Varna based classifications. So in order to include them, or in order to facilitate them into the society, another term is being used in the ancient text, and that term is Jati. Okay, in Varna based society, Varnas were 4 only, there were 4 Varnas only: Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishyas and Sudra. But in the Jati is a term which is used to define the people who normally does not fit into this Varna based society or Varna based classifications. They maybe they belongs to some other categories. Okay, sometimes, like the people who are living in jungles. Okay, they were they does not fit into any type of the varna category. Like they cannot be termed as a Brahmin, they cannot be termed as a Kshatriya, Vaishyas or Sudras. So they have given another term, and that term comes under the jati. Like there is an instance of one instance there in Mahabharata about Ekalavya. He has, he was a great archer. It is said that he was, in one way he was better than Arjuna also, because there is an instances, there is a small story associated with it. And this particular Ekalavya, it is said that does not belong to any of the four Varna category. So he was classified as a Nishad. And same type of Nishad you can find in the mention in Ramayana also. Okay. Apart from this, there are some other instances, like the instances of Hidimba with Vim, and Hidimba's son Ghatatkoch. Okay, they were termed as Rakshasa. Hidimba was termed as Rakshasa, but some historians later on cleared it that Rakshasa is a term actually used to define the people who actually does not fit into the four Varna categories. Okay, so let me go through your book only, because as you wanted me to go through the book. Now, Jati. In Brahmanical theory, Jati, like Varna, was based on birth. However, while the number of Varna was fixed at 4, there was no restrictions on the number of Jatis. I told you already, Varnas were only 4. There were 4 Varna, but there was no restrictions for the numbers of Jati. It can be many. Okay. Now, in fact, whenever Brahmanical authorities encountered a new group, for instance, people living in forests such as Nishadas, about which I have already told you, or wanted to assign a name to occupational categories such as a goldsmith or Suvarnakara, which did not easily fit into the fourfold Varna system, they classified them as Jati. So whenever Brahmanical writers, or whenever the Brahmanical lawgivers and all encountered with a new social group in society, sometimes they, the one who is living in jungles like Nisads, or sometimes the people of some other different occupations, like the example is given about the goldsmith or Suvarnakara. Apart from this, there are many other occupational group. Okay, now where they have to be, in which category they have to be classified, in which category they have to be kept in. So to solve this problem, historians, the Brahmins, they must have used the term Jati. Okay. Now, we seldom come across the documents or the books where the life of these type of the people are hardly documented. Okay, we seldom come across the books which discussed in deep about the families, their structures, their social activities, etc. in the society. But there was one important inscription which is found. The inscription which was believed to be inscribed somewhere around 5th century CE. Okay, circa 5th century. So it is in Mandasur. That inscription is found at Mandasur in Madhya Pradesh, and this inscription is completely dedicated to a particular occupational groups. Okay, a particular occupational category. Okay, they are the silk weavers. Okay, these Mandasur inscriptions have recorded the history of a guild of silk weavers originally who lived in Lata, that is in Gujarat, from where they wanted to migrate, and they were migrating to Mandasur, then known as Daspura. Mandasur at the time was famous as Daspura. It states that they undertook the difficult journey along with their children and kinfolk as they had heard about the greatness of local king and wanted to settle in his kingdom. Now, this Mandasur inscriptions is completely dedicated to the story of this occupational group, that is the weavers. Okay, and weavers and their guild means the organizations. Okay, the other word we can use to define guild is sreni. Okay, that we have already discussed about this guild and sreni in our previous classes. Those are the organizations of a particular craft categories, a particular craft people. Okay, in today's case we heard about the Chamber of Commerce. Okay, we heard about the Lawyers Association, we have heard about the students organizations. These are a form of guild only. Okay, these are the organizations specifically created by people belonging to a same occupational groups or same categories. Okay, in order to protect their own interest and all. Okay, so this Mandasur inscriptions dealt with the guild of the silk weavers who originally belongs to a place in Gujarat. Okay, name of the place is Lata in Gujarat, and this entire community migrated to a new place that is in Madhya Pradesh called Mandasur. Now, why they were migrating? Because the reason is economic region. Okay, because they heard that the ruler of this Mandasur is very good, and they are, I mean, very kind type of people, and they gives opportunity to the new social groups there in their place. Okay, or you can say that they have seen a lot of scope of economic improvement of their guild groups, their craft people in this new place, that is Mandasur. That is why not only one or two or few members of that particular guild, entire members of the that guild, including their kinfolk and all, children, family, wives, etc., everybody, they migrated to Mandasur. The inscription provides a fascinating glimpse of complex social processes and provides insight into the nature of guilds or sreni. Although membership was based on a shared craft specialization, some members adopted other occupations. It also indicates that the members shared more than one common profession. They collectively decide to invest the wealth earned through their craft to construct a splendid temple in honor of the sun god. Now, these inscriptions gives us idea about the various activities being performed by the guild, or it gives us an idea about what is actually the guild, and whether all the people belonging to the guild used to perform one occupation, or they can share other occupations also. As per this inscriptions, we came to know that yes, it is not necessary that all the members belonging to that particular guild where have to perform only one occupations. It is said that in some cases some members, they are performing more than one occupations. Okay, at the same time they were the silk weavers and they were performing some other activities also. Okay, like look at that. It also indicates that the members shared more than one common profession. Okay, and they collectively decides to invest their wealth, earn through their craft to construct us. Now, at the same time, there is an instances that the people who belonging to this different type of guilds, they used to collect the money, they used to pull the money so that they can spend this money to construct the temple for the. There is an example that they have constructed a temple, splendid temple, a beautiful temple, a large temple for a god called Sun god. Okay, so apart from this, there are a number of cases associated with the Sreni, their functions, their activities and all, about which we have already discussed in our junior classes only. But yeah, guild are the organizations of the specialist craft people, and through guild only they decide what to produce, how to produce, how much to produce, and to whom. I mean, produce. I mean, who will produce what? All these sort of things were also, decided by the guild. At the same time, guild also perform as a, a bank, or it provides monetary help to its member whenever they are in need. Okay, and they also, act as a supply chain, by supplying, sometimes they supply the resources required to kind of, perform those different type of occupations, like, raw materials and all. At the same time, they also collect the finished goods, and they sell this, or they provide for the transportations of those goods to the markets and all. Okay, so guild perform different type of activities, and through these Mandasur inscriptions, what we came to know is that, it is not necessary that the members belonging to one guild group has to confine themselves into the occupations of that particular guild group only. They can perform other occupations also. Okay, now the next topic is beyond the four varnas, integration. Now, in our last topic only, previous videos only, I told you that all, and we have also discussed about it, that all the rules and regulations, all the norms codified in those Brahmanical texts like Dharma Shastras and Dharma Sutras were not followed by all the people throughout the Indian subcontinent. There are some instances, there are some social groups. They are actually, they does not fall into these Brahmanical categories. Okay, Brahmanical categories of the society, or Brahmanical classifications of the society only. They fall. I mean, they belongs to some different social groups, and there are the instances that many of those social groups were not even touched by those Brahmanical rules and regulations, Brahmanical norms. Okay, let us discuss about it. Given the diversity of the subcontinent, there were and always have been populations whose social practices were not influenced by Brahmanical ideals. When they figure in Sanskrit texts, they are often described as odd, uncivilized, or even animal-like. In some instances, these included forest dwellers for whom hunting and gathering remained an important means of subsistence. Categories such as the Nishada, to which Ekalavya is supposed to have belonged, are example of this. Now, Brahmanical texts, whenever they come across the type of people or a group of people, they does not fit into the Varna categories. They have used a bit different terms for them. Okay, like, some people say who are living in jungles and all, and they don't perform the work which is prescribed by the Varna based occupational classifications. Okay, and they perform some other work, like, the people who are living in jungle, they do hunting and gathering activities, which is not actually codified through the Brahmanical occupational norms. So for this term, I have already told you about, they belongs to some different jati, and some degradatory terms have been used to define these people as, somebody like, uncivilized, barbarians, odd people, or and to the height, they were also told even as, even like, animal like people. Okay. Now, for example, I have already given the example like Ekalavya, which has a very good, mention there in Mahabharata, belongs to this particular caste, this particular jati category, and this particular group of the people does not fit into the Varna society, and they were also even not fit into the Varna based rules and regulations, or they don't rather follow the Varna based rules and regulations. Others who were viewed with suspicion included populations such as nomadic pastoralists, who could not be easily accommodated within the framework of settled agriculturists. Sometimes those who spoke non-Sanskritic languages were labeled as mlechas and looked down upon. Okay, other than this nishada, there were many there were other different social groups also, other people also, other group of the people also. Okay, they perform the pastoralism. Okay, they herd and rear the animals and all. They domesticated different type of animals like goat, sheep, cow, buffalo, etc. And they move from one place to another. They are nomadic herds, nomadic tribe people. In some cases we have seen they practice this, shifting cultivations and all also. So these people also cannot be, included in the Brahmanical occupations category. Like they cannot be included in the Vaishya category, where Vaishyas are the people who used to perform the trade and commercial activity, and those are the people, they also perform the agricultural activity. But these nomadic tribals, the shifting cultivators are also, they does not fit into this Varna based occupational classifications, so they were also included in this particular form. Okay, in some cases those people who don't speak in Sanskrit, I mean they does not speak Sanskrit, they were labeled as something outside the society or outside the Varna based society, and they were used the terms like mlech, or by using this term, these type of the people were seen as a low category of the people, or they were looked down upon. There was nonetheless also a sharing of ideas and beliefs between these people. The nature of relations is evident in some stories in the Mahabharata. But at the same time, there are some instances where the various ideas and all were being shared. Okay, I mean it is not that the people were belonging to this particular category like nishats or like mlechas and all, they were completely excluded from the society, because we have seen in some cases like in Mahabharata, there are some instances and examples where there was the interconnections between the Varna based people and the people belonging to this particular category. Okay, there were the sharing of ideas and all. One examples about source 9 mein aapko milega, you just see there in source 9 you'll get that there is an example about the Bhim and his wife, new wife, that is termed as a Rakshasa wife, Hidimba. Okay, Hidimba and Bhim, and so Hidimba belongs to another category, Bhim belongs to a Kshatriya, I mean a Kshatriya category. Okay, Varna based society. But there was interactions, interconnections, and rather there is instances that Bhim married that particular lady, and as a result of their marriage they have a son also, that is Ghatotkach. Okay, and so there was this type of interactions also. Okay, so you cannot say that these people, those who are termed as outside the Varna based societies, were not completely excluded from the society. Okay, now next topic is beyond four Varnas, subordinations and conflict. Children, I think this is becoming a bit long video, so I'll continue this topic in my next video. Thank you very much, and stay blessed and stay safe. Thank you.